So we're back up here across from the Speleothem that's just across the road there, climbing up this little user trail or game trail. See a lot of deer tracks going up here. Yeah, so this climb here is really interesting. You have to use 3 different techniques to get up here. So the first third of this climb is just cross country, aiming for a spot on the hillshade map where there's an old road part of the way up this ridge. And you just have to pick your way through the brush here up this really steep climb and aim for that section of old road. Anyway, it's a fair slog up there, just working through all this brush and trees and just trying to pick your way through, find the easiest path. Okay, this is just part of this lower section of this climb. Looking down the ridge here, I'll tilt the camera up so it's pretty much level. So you can see, you can't even see the slope there. And yeah, it's just following a whole series of these little game trails or user trails up here. They kind of get distinct for a little bit and then they vanish, and then you got to jump up and try to find the next one. I think I'm about halfway up to what I call the second road. So I'll switch the camera back on when I get up to the second road up here, and then that's where the route changes. Okay, yeah, this is really steep part where you're coming up. I think the first road is down there a ways and it sort of fades out, but then you follow this scree slope up through the brush. And here's the second road right down there. That part of the road is impassable. It's just solid brush all the way down to the stream canyon over here. But then here you follow this trace of the second road using the hillshade map. Although the road's actually pretty distinct, but you have to follow this trace of this road up until you get to the third road, and then you have to cut over and climb up to the third road. So this is kind of the middle third of the climb. This is the easy part. You're on a relatively flat road here, so you've got good footing. It's still fairly steep and there is some brush you have to go, you know, around, below, over, under. Okay, making my way up this middle road here, second road, and it's fairly clear, but I think this is probably going to be my last time up here this spring because all of this stuff is starting to grow, getting a little bit spicy up here. Poison oak is getting waist high. Yeah, I think this will be the last weekend. You know, I've got gaiters and long tights on, which, you know, as long as you don't go through too heavy a stuff, you can kind of walk around all this. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, this was just down, sprouting out of the ground, but now it's like waist high. This will probably be my last time up here this spring, but I wanted to at least see if I can get up to the top and do a little bit of scouting up there. We'll keep going here and then we'll cut up to the third road pretty soon. Okay, there's what I call the third road that you hit coming up this ridge. And again, it's just chock full of brush if you go down the hill. I think it goes around this way and then cuts along the canyon wall there. But I want to go this way. And at this point, you switch over to the aerial imagery view, because what you're shooting for, there's a bunch of grassy meadows as you go up this ridge. And you just kind of got to pick your way through all this brush until you get up to the grassy meadows. They start out really small, just little patches of grass, and you just try to hop from patch to patch, and then they get bigger and bigger, and then finally there's one that's about a 1/4 mile long. Third road goes off this way, but you really don't want to follow it. I've tried that a couple of times, and yeah, that's not the way to go here. So here you switch over to aerial imagery. Going up is not too bad, but coming down is actually very difficult without a GPS track. So if you're coming up here, record a track going up the ridge and then follow it back down, because going up it's very obvious where you want to go, but coming down you can get lost. I've gotten lost a couple of times coming down here. Okay, making my way up from the third road. Like I say, just kind of come up the nose of the ridge here. There's a little grassy meadow and a tree right there. So you just follow those on the aerial imagery. And then up here you start running into the chaparral brush. I think this is California sagebrush, and it looks pretty bad, but you can get through it. There's little game trails or whatever, and you're just shooting for the next tree. You just kind of hop from tree to tree and meadow to meadow. So yeah, this is about 2/3 of the way, and this is kind of the slow part. The meadows get a little bigger, and you can make a little better time up there. Okay, yeah, you first hit the first little grassy meadow of reasonable size just around these trees here. Then you've got to swing in under the trees, and then you pick up a little more of this grassy meadow, and you're also going through like the buckbrush here is in bloom. So this is all the chaparral plants. So you got buckbrush, California sagebrush. Right here there's almost a well-defined trail, but it doesn't go very far. I mean, it literally starts like right here, and then it looks like it's really well defined, and then just around the corner it vanishes. Okay, yeah, last of the bushwhacking up to the big meadow. There's another, I think that's another buckbrush species, that kind of purple lavender flower. I'll put an annotation in the video with the name of that. But yeah, stuff is starting to bloom up here, getting a few little wildflowers in the meadow. Not sure what these little guys are. These little tiny flowers. Yeah, here's where you just kind of follow these little game trails up. There is a little more bushwhacking. You get up to this brush here, and then you got to cut up. I think this little trail sort of angles around and goes off that direction, but the road is up this way. But yeah, gotta start heading up here, see if we can get up to the old road and see what time it is when I get there. Okay, this little user trail keeps going along here. Seems to just follow the canyon upstream, and yeah, there's a bunch of California poppies starting to bloom here. Yeah, I got a whole bunch along here. Someday I want to continue down that trail, see if it goes anywhere. But yeah, I think this is the point where I cut up a ridge here, someplace up through here to get up to the old road. Yeah, so I made it up the ridge. It came up that upper grassy meadow. So I cut up through the brush, quite a bit of brush. A couple of big trees, under the big trees, and then through some brush and more trees. So hopefully I can find my way back down, but I finally made it. Look at this. This is the old road. You can see it shows up on the hillshade map. You can see this on Google aerial view. Wow, this is like a major road here. 2 lanes probably. Look at this here. Make sure you make this turn when you're going down the road. There's no guardrail here. Look at that thing. Wow. You got snow on Mount Hamilton over there. But yeah, look at that road. Wow, that's a steep sucker. And it keeps going. You can see it over on the next ridge. Someplace between here and the floor of the canyon was an old vineyard at one time. But the road from down where the old buildings are and the old roads don't seem to come up here. So I don't think this was part of the vineyard. I hope you enjoyed that look up here. I doubt many people get up here. This is first for me anyway, so as always, thanks for watching.